Hello everyone, let's go ahead and take a look at cumulative data and an introduction to measuring the spread of data. Now when we talk about cumulative data, one of the primary reasons why we need to approach cumulative data is because we need to answer this one question, is how do you determine the mean, the median, if you're provided with continuous data? So let's go ahead and take a look at an example. Here is a chart, a frequency table dealing with continuous data. So we have an interval from 0 to 1, occurs twice, 1 to 2 occurs 3 times, 2 to 3 4 times, and 3 to 4 1 time. So if you're given this data, of course we can go ahead and talk about the mode because this is the most frequently occurring. And we can also go ahead and calculate the mean because we can go ahead and take the middle value of this interval and multiply it by its frequency. Do that for all of the different intervals and then divide by the total amount of values that we have. And we can come up with what would be considered a mean for this set of continuous data. But the question is how do you determine the median? The median is going to be much more difficult because of the fact that we're dealing with intervals as opposed to discrete values of data. So what we need to do then is we need to create what is called a cumulative frequency polygon or an ogive. Now we've already done this in the IGCSE, so it shouldn't be anything new. We go ahead and take a look at our frequency table. We create what is going to be a cumulative frequency column, and of course the way that we come up with these values, that's just going to be the same, but this value is going to be the cumulative frequencies of all of the frequencies before it. So notice that this is 2 plus 3 is 5. Notice that this 9 is 2 plus 3 plus 4, which is 9. And the 10 value is actually going to be all of those frequencies added together. So what that means then is I can then go ahead and transfer that to what we have here, which is going to be a ogive. Now, be careful, one of the things that you need to remember is that when we go ahead and plot the values on the ogive, we need to be sure to use the endpoints of the interval and the cumulative frequency values. So this is the cumulative frequencies, okay, and those are the values here, okay, for your intervals. So notice that what we have to use is we have to use the endpoint of the interval because all of these two particular frequencies are going to be contained within this interval, and we have to make sure that we take the maximum value of that interval. So notice that at 1, I'm going to plot 2. At 2, I'm going to plot 5 over here. At 3, I'm going to plot 9 over there. And at 4, I'm going to plot 10. Up there, connect those with straight lines, and what I come out with is what I call the ogive. Now, how does this help us? Well, this is now going to give us a way or a mean to approximate where the median is. Now, we know for a fact that the total cumulative frequency is 10. Therefore, if I was to go ahead and say that the median value would be 5, I could now just go across this way. And I could then go ahead and say that 2 would actually be my median value. So, for the median value, I could then go ahead and write 2. Now, what we're going to do is we're also going to go ahead and take a look at the measures of spread. Okay, and one of the primary means by which we can measure the spread is by using our 5-number summary. And remember, our 5-number summary dealt with the minimum, the first quartile, which is the 25th percentile, the median or quartile 2, quartile 3 or the 75th percentile, and the maximum. So let's go ahead and take a look first of all before we get to that. Why do we need the spread? Why do we need to know how to measure the spread? Well, the reason why we need to do that is if we go ahead and take a look at this very simple example here, notice that these two very distinct sets of data, of 3 numbers each, 1, 50, and 99, 49, 50, and 51. Notice that if we go ahead and take the mean for both of these are 50. Okay, the median for both of these is 50. Now the mode, of course, is all of those numbers. So let's not count the mode for now. But if we take a look at the measures of central tendency, basically what it's saying is that these two sets of data are exactly the same. So if we just look at it from the central tendency point of view, the mean and the median giving us the same values is telling us that these two data sets, which are obviously different, are the same. So what we need to do, in addition to looking at how information is centralizing itself to certain values, we need to go ahead and also see how the data is actually spread. So notice that in this case over here, the spread is small. And notice that in this case, the spread is large. Okay. So what that means then is that if I go ahead now and use the measures of central tendency and the measures of spread together, if I come across something that looks like this, I won't be taking a look at this data set, these two data sets, and saying they're basically the same. Although the measures of central tendency are the same, the spreads are different, so therefore we know that the sets of data is different as well. So let's go back then and let's talk about measuring the spread of this particular polygon. And remember that one of the things that we could use is the 5-number summary. And notice that the 5-number summary is based upon the median. Okay, it's 2. That means that 50% is actually below this information, below this value. 50% is actually above that value. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we can actually get these values. We know for a fact that the minimum is actually going to be 0. Now the 25th percentile, we know that there's a cumulative frequency of 10, so at 2.5, so here's 2, that's 3, 2.5 would like be about right here. So if I was to go there, I would consider this value right here to be Q sub 1. So Q sub 1 would be, let's just take a guess here, that looks like about 1.3. Okay, we know that this was our median. Okay. And if I was to go and consider what the third quartile is, or at 75%, so 7.5 would be about here, go across, come down here, go down, then this value right here would be quartile 3. And if we just go ahead and approximate what that is, that looks like about 2.6. Let's just say 2.6. Okay, and then of course the maximum would be 4. Okay, so what I can do then is I can now go ahead and also calculate the interquartile range, or the IQR. So the IQR is just going to be quartile 3, which is 2.6, minus 1.3, which is about 1.3, which is 1.3. And we can also go ahead and calculate the range, or the overall range, and in this case it's going to be 4 minus 0, which is going to be equal to 4. Okay, so what we can do now is we can go ahead and determine the median value based upon continuous data, and we can also go ahead and use the measures of spread by looking at the 5-number summary to determine whether the information is spread out over a large interval or whether the spread is a small spread. Okay, and so there you go. You have cumulative data and measuring the spread. Okay, we'll take a look at the next section next time that we meet. Give it a shot. See you next time. Bye-bye.